So hi, Kaelen. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for
Tell
having me.
me how are you and where are you?
I'm really well. I'm in Taos, New Mexico at the moment. Came out here a week ago for my birthday and have a lot of really close friends here. So I've just been hiking and swimming and just spending time outside.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, belated birthday.
Thank you.
So you're not working. I thought maybe you were working at this point.
No, film and music are, still finding their way through all of this, I think. My work in film is on pause still, and the show I was working on in Israel at the beginning of the year, we obviously got interrupted with COVID, and looks like we're going back in January to finish. So it's going to be a second. But
Right.
yeah, I've been really busy with the album rollout and with music videos and stuff like that. But I finished the last one a week ago and needed a minute, needed a
That,
break. So
that's a new video.
yeah, I've been making a lot of videos for this album during quarantine in the last 6 to 8 weeks, especially. So with the intention to have a video album. So far that 4 of the 6 songs have videos now, and a
Okay.
couple more need to be finished. But yeah, it's been a really busy time and really beautiful. Just taking one or two friends and going outside. I'm in California, living in California at the moment, sort of waiting for work to pick back up. And there's just so many incredible places to shoot
So
in this
am I right
state.
in saying you live in LA now, but you were brought up in Canada, but now you're in LA?
Yeah, I've been in Toronto the past 5 years. I grew up in Fernie, BC, in a small little ski town, just north of the US border. And I've been in Los Angeles for the past number of months, sort of splitting time still between, Canada and the US. But my intention is to live in LA full time. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So for anybody,
everything is up in the air.
yeah, for sure. For anybody who's not familiar with what you do, I'm going to give you a quick resume check. Singer, musician, piano and guitar, I think. Filmmaker, actor, dancer. Anything else you would like to add to that list?
uh, yeah, just a human, I really like to be in nature and, trying to be a productive member of society right now and pay attention to everything that's going on socially and environmentally. And, art is a nice conduit for what comes up in that space. And it's a nice place to navigate my own feelings and growth and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I guess the addition is just what I said, just, trying to be a good human. And
Well, what do you think you get from each individual thing that you don't get from the others? Like,
Hmm.
what do you get from music that you don't get from film or dance or whatever, and vice versa?
Wow, that's such a good question. I mean, they certainly feel like they nourish different parts of my psyche and my creative mind and my body, of course, with movement. I mean, I grew up dancing, and just recently in the past year, it's kind of come back into my life in a way through my acting work. I think, filmmaking is where I can express visually, acting is where I can express emotionally. Primarily. And also, I think acting for me is very much a space where I get to leave my own worldly dust and stories and empathize with other people and have my experiences and challenges become an asset to be in service to something else, which is really a nice break from the human's cyclical thought patterning that, a lot of us are always, or a lot of us are trying to sort of mellow out, if I can say that. Yeah, and music is I guess it's all very emotional, but somehow they just really come from different spaces for me. it's all part of trying to find a sense of self and a sense of identity, and being comfortable with expressing that in whatever medium is chosen, with truth and with like conviction of, you know, this is my life and this is what I've been through and I'm okay with that. And I've sat with it and healed enough that now I can turn it into something beautiful and selfless and to be in service to others. And so I mean, I'm not fully answering your question. They all feel very like mutually exclusive and also one and the same. I love them all as like modalities of expression, and whenever I'm in one of them, I just get totally absorbed in it. And it's a really, I tend to like, you know, I will be in the studio and for 10 days just be doing that and growing as a musician, and then suddenly I'm on a film set and don't touch a guitar for, you know, a while. And that's an interesting thing I'm trying to balance. And I think this project AMAARA is a space where I can try and like nourish all those things in one
Yeah.
project, and also be at the like creative center of decision making with that, because obviously I've played in other bands, I've, you know, directed other people's work, I've acted in something someone else is directing, and this for me is really, it's kind of like a practice in self-trust, I guess, and just being able to um, put a lot of opinions and, you know, feelings of wanting uh, to um, reach a certain level or make something like I've heard or seen, or, you know, and just really focus in on doing something that's really personal to me,
Mm.
and not paying attention to everything else that's being, you know, made. And if that makes sense, very long-winded answer.
So a lot of artists, they might have interests in different aspects, you know, whether it's filmmaking or music or whatever, but most would choose one to concentrate on and try and be the best they can at that. Did you ever consider that?
Mm. So much. I admire so deeply people who become masters at their craft. And it's not that I don't want to become that. I think that as I get older, I'm becoming more clear on where I want to put my energy and time. And I do want to know my instruments. I do want to, you know, become a deeply educated, you know, strong technical actor. Um, the same thing goes for filmmaking, you know, understanding the craft of directing and editing and all those things. And I think for me, I really, I go, my personal experience is just, I'm easily inspired in a lot of different directions. And I've learned that trying to hone in on a linear path for myself, it is just not how I'm designed. And if there's something that takes me in a direction, I just need to honor that, even if it means, uh, you know, losing my skills as a guitar player for a couple of months to become a better actor. I just have learned to really honor what's being called in, and work in that space. And inevitably it all feels like I'm becoming a stronger artist and just a stronger human by listening to those things. But for some reason, I've just never been someone who is like, okay, guitar is my thing. And I know people like this, you know, a lot of my dear friends and colleagues are just these incredibly focused individuals who are becoming masters at their craft at a very young age. And for me to, yeah, it's just not how I'm built, I suppose. And I have considered it, to answer your question, but I I just like to do a lot of different things depending on where I'm at in the moment, I guess.
Which pursuit would you say you've struggled with the most? Like which have you had to like really work at to be as good as you want to be?
Hmm. I think acting is the hardest one. Uh, Technically, it's a very difficult thing to do well, and I think to create that suspension of disbelief, so to speak. Film's a little easier than theater because there's so many elements that can be in support of a performance, and you can get into the edit suite and craft it to make it seem better. Excuse me. But for me, just in my personal journey, it's been the most difficult because you really have to have a point of view, and you really have to know yourself, and you really have to know how you see the world and what you believe in. And then you also have to be able to drop all of that and, you know, use it for emotional availability, but be in service to something else and not be worried about what's coming across, or, you know, what about your own life or story is being utilized in telling something that has nothing to do with you. It's really an act of service that requires, you know, having a really strong sense of self and then completely removing ego. And music, and I wouldn't say like music and film or filmmaking are dissimilar, but there's a lot more distraction you can put in all of that.
Right, yeah.
In a way, I suppose. And, you know, acting, at the end of the day, it's like if you watch a film and it totally sucks, you remember the acting and the performance, not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily get put on the directors or the producers.
That's true. So with this new project, AMAARA, all these elements that you're involved in are kind of coming together in one project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that you're the kind of person that likes to have that control over something like that?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate being able to execute a vision in its entirety. You know, collaborative spaces are so beautiful, and actually I find that I work a lot faster and more in a more focused way when I'm collaborating, that I sort of am like I move through the world in a transpersonal way. So even though AMAARA is very much an individual space where I'm, you know, the music and the ideas for the music and production and sounds and all of that are coming from me, and the vision for the videos and all of that are coming through my hands. I still am working with people. I'm not an engineer, so beyond simple demos at home, you know, I worked with Brock Geiger, who is an incredible Canadian musician, has a band called Raleigh, and has been a guitarist in Reuben in the Dark for many years, which we played together in that band. And I mean, he's just an incredible multi-instrumentalist, as well as, I didn't know this, playing in a band with him for 4 years, but just a really incredible engineer. I mean, the whole record was made in his spare bedroom studio with not a lot of gear.
Yeah.
Anyway, going into that, if I try and sit and write a record by myself in a room with a piano, it would take me years. It's crazy. But the moment I'm in the room with someone and have accountability to that space with that person, something happens, and I feel really available to create really quickly. And so I really appreciate having the ability to sort of be the director in all of those spaces, but still I have to just like pay respect to the, you know, the DPs that I'm calling in to shoot the videos, and, you know, the friends I'm calling in to act in them if I'm not in them, and the musicians and engineers that are coming into the space to trust working with me and support my vision, but also are the kind of like fuel for me to be present and available to creating quickly, and not just be procrastinating for weeks on end to try and show up and write a song. I've understood that.
Okay, I have to tell you that I get sent a lot of music because of what I do, and it's really difficult to listen to everything, but I do my best. I got sent your record and put it on. I was just going about my day, trying to get some work done while I had the music in the background, and I had to stop what I was doing, because as soon as the vocals came in on the first track, I was just blown away by the sound of your voice and the feel of the music, and I literally just stopped everything and listened to the entire record, and I have to say it's beautiful.
Oh wow, thank you so much.
So I know it's a very personal record, and you talked about how some of your other pursuits let you escape yourself and work under somebody else's direction and be another person when you're acting. Do you always find yourself making personal work when it comes to music? Is that where you get that side of yourself out?
Well, it certainly happened this time. The first EP that I made, uh, it's personal in a sense where I can look back and reflect on, okay, this is what that meant, or this is what I was going through at the time. But it was not, my heart wasn't cracked open, and I wasn't, becoming a channel to communicate through myself my own experiences. I didn't have as much of a point of view as a human being when I put out the first EP. It was like 2017, but I made it over the course of the 3 years prior as kind of a side project. And with this one, it was so different because, particularly in the past year, I've just gone through so much change and growth as a person, and really met grief in a way that I didn't know was possible. And I think what that can do for a lot of people is change you and understand your spectrum of ability to feel and move through the world and really feel alive. And I think my involvement in just moving through the world in a completely different way, and paying a lot more attention, and going through what I went through, I just suddenly had something to say. And it took me 3 years to really, or I guess 2 years to even listen to music. I definitely wasn't writing. And then all of a sudden it was kind of, the opportunity arose to spend some time with Brock. And I just said, like, I want to go in and write and record and finish a record in that one period of time. And I have no idea what that's going to look like. We could make an ambient record. We could, who knows what it will be. But it just, yeah, I mean, the whole thing was, I had no ideas, no words, no nothing going into it. And it just, it's the first time that I've really had something I needed to get out of my system, and that I really understood what it was I was saying, and what I believed in at the time. And I think that was kind of I've heard a lot of artists say this over the years, like, oh, I feel like I have something to say now. I'm becoming more politically involved. I've gone through this personal experience, and now I really have a story to share. And for me, I was exploring, for me, music a lot of the time is very emotional and feeling based. It's the instrumental side of music is a lot more effective to me than the lyrics. I listen to a lot of ambient music, and that's the part that I focus on the most. So with my first record, it was very much like, oh, how does this sound and how does it feel to listen to? But I didn't have much to say. And so I'm really trying to change my approach with music, that if I am going to have lyrics in it, that it's going to be something that is meaningful to me and that I believe in. And I think that also translates to the listener. As I was going through this time in my life, I was listening to music in a completely different way, where it was hilarious. I was, 31, 32, going like, oh, that's why every heartache song and every film has been made. I suddenly understood, whereas before I really didn't understand that. And so yeah, it's definitely become a space for me where I'm starting to understand how it is I can put my experience and my personal opinion and story into it if I choose.
Is it a cathartic experience for you to make a record like the one you've made?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just so it was just Brock and I, and we've had a lot of time together, and it was a time where we just melted in. Arrived in the morning, I'd sit at the piano, wait for a song to come through, and at that time it was just really coming in quickly, and then we would just dive in and start putting down tracks and ideas. And once we had the first one down, we kind of work on a new one in the morning and go back to the other one in the evening, and kind of worked from like 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day for 10 days. And I had to leave early for work, so initially I wanted like 10, 11 tracks, but we got to 6. And but it was hugely healing, and just a beautiful thing to understand that what it is I experienced that felt like so debilitating at the time really could. Time is such a healer, and eventually you have access to take those things and turn it into art, which is what every artist has ever done, I think.
For sure. And I know you have a big connection to nature, so it looks like you're in your happy place right now.
Yeah.
But is that where you feel the most creative, when you're writing songs?
I think nature for me is where the sort of instrumental, the emotional feeling of things come from, cosmic landscapes and oceans and forests. Again, with this record, it kind of, the lyrics came out really in stream of consciousness fashion. So I haven't really spent a lot of time, you know, just writing songs. I don't have a big library of songs that haven't been released. Some artists have hundreds, and that's what they do, is they write. And I want to become more prolific in that way and be able to write songs more easily. But yeah, I think nature for me, I think, is where I recharge myself and my soul, and understand my place in on this earth and in the greater universe. And without that, I just feel in my nervous system and in my ability to express, those, the stickiness of being in cities or being, too on my devices. And so when I go into nature, it's really just being present with that and leaving everything else behind. And I think that just inevitably makes space, for things to come through. And then when you do show up to the piano or the guitar or the camera or the script, then um, you're again just like nourished in yourself and have communicated with source in a way that when you show up to these technical abilities, you can just open up and become a channel. And not every artist, I would say, is hugely connected to nature, and some people can just show up in the same room every day and just create and create and create. And I definitely go through cycles, and I'm understanding that about myself, where I wish I was more readily available to just write a ton of songs or write scripts constantly, but I really need to retreat and leave all that behind. And I grew up in the mountains in a really small town, and I think that's just how my constitution is built around that, in order to ground and be available for information to come in. And
But now you
that's
live
what
in
I'm sort of understanding.
now you live in one of the biggest cities in the world, rather than in the Rockies. So do you still feel like you get that same inspiration living there? I know you can quickly get into the countryside around LA. Is that
Well,
something?
I actually live in Topanga Canyon, so I'm in the woods,
Okay.
and I'm 10 minutes from the ocean. So
That's,
um, I'm very separated from the city in a way, almost that you kind of have to remind yourself to go into civilization. It's definitely a bubble, and I've been spending a lot of time there the past 6 years, and I've just moved into this place in May, so it's been pretty short term so far. And with COVID and quarantine, I mean, it's been, yeah, most of my days are really at my place, or hiking right outside my door, swimming in the sea. It's a very privileged place to be in right now, but yeah, so I'm not really in Los Angeles proper.
so would I be right in saying that you're the kind of person that's always thinking of the next thing you want to do, but you still enjoy the downtime in between?
Yeah, I'm definitely sitting in that space right now, just having put out this album and wrapped these music videos and going, okay, I'm trying to just sit still and appreciate the in between. I think there's a grief process that happens, or a feeling, coming home from tour and suddenly going like, what is going on? I've just been in this place where there's been new environments every hour through driving, and, so many people and new venues every night, or being on a film set and shooting different scenes every day, working on different songs in a studio, to suddenly being to sit with yourself. And that can be difficult, and I'm trying to do that more gracefully these days, and just trust that the flow of whatever's coming in and all these different things I love to do has a divine order to it, and to kind of just surrender to the flow and really enjoy the downtime and really appreciate it. um, I've understood in this time with COVID that so many people, for the first time in generations maybe, are getting a break. And that's also been terrifying for a lot of us, to go sit in the unknown, where it's always been that way, but we've suddenly had to slow down, and we were moving so fast to not really realize that not much has changed, other than we're sitting here realizing that the world is going through all of these things that it has been going through for some time. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely learning to appreciate the stillness and allow that in and of itself to be productive, as opposed to sitting there stewing, going, oh, I should be doing more, I should be doing more, you know.
Yeah. So back at the beginning of January this year, you said in an interview that you were really excited about 2020. How are you feeling about 2020 right now?
Did I say that? Oh, I mean, it's just been incredibly surreal. And in some ways, I think pointing to the fact that time is not a linear entity. It's very multidimensional. And when we're, yeah, I mean, it's been wild. Am I excited? I mean, it's been a beautiful year for me. I'm really lucky, really, really privileged to be in the place that I am, to be working in art and to be able to take some time off. And I mean, it hasn't always been that way, of course. Like if this had happened a couple of years ago, I'd be a lot more stressed out. But I think, I mean, it's hugely important. I really believe in like divine order of the earth and the universe. And I think all this stuff is happening for a really, really good reason. I mean, even if you look at the rollout of the year, it's, you know, this pandemic happens and everyone's put in quarantine to sit and reconsider our place in the world. And then this chapter of Black Lives Matter come, and suddenly like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are actually available to walk the streets and make noise. And that's been a beautiful part about being in the US, because Canadians we don't rise up as much with our voices, not for as long as, you know, folks do down here. And so that's been really illuminating for me, just the importance of being a part of these conversations. And so I'm excited about it. It's equally as terrifying and, you know, strange and all of the things, but I'm just trying to be okay with all of it, you know, and not project onto, oh, it was supposed to be this. And, you know, I thought the year was going to go very different with how it was starting, and the job I was working on in Israel. And, you know, and suddenly I'm like, okay, well, I have all of a sudden a couple months to make some music videos and, you know, try and thoughtfully put out this record a little more. And that's been cool. But yeah, I just, you know, got to trust in the unfolding of it all, and then also try and be productive members of, you know, the earth and society, and do good work right now because we have more time than we've ever had.
Yeah. So I think your album is probably a good album to help people calm during all of this uncertainty. So thanks for that. And thanks for your time today. And I wish you all the best, and enjoy New Mexico. It looks like a great place to be at the moment. And
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and hope we get to see you maybe live at some point. Is that something that you would be considering if the world corrects itself?
Yeah, I would love that. I've been missing playing shows a lot. And even though, you know, I didn't plan on being full-time touring project with this, I've had the opportunity a couple times to open for friends who are doing that, and hope to do that again in the future. And I love playing Montreal. There's some really great venues, and I hope that the good ones have stayed standing through this time.
Not all of them, but we keep
it's tough.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a resurgence of appreciation for music in general, and I'm excited for that. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, and good luck with everything that you're doing. I'm sure you're going to go on to do great things.
Thanks so much.
Okay, have a great day.
Bye, Steve. You too.